Hi, and welcome to the Banker's View from Sibos video series, looking at all the hot topics in Geneva this year. I'm Joy Macknight, Transaction Banking and Technology Editor at the Banker, and I'm here with Charl Bruyns, who's Head of Investor Services at Standard Bank. Thanks so much for joining us, Charl. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the challenges in Africa when you're providing investor services?
Hi Joy, thanks for having us. I think the challenges for us in investor services in Africa is more around, we currently cover 16 markets in Africa. We're busy opening 2 new ones that will bring us to 16. And these markets are on different levels of regulation, development, and for us to navigate that landscape for our clients, where markets operate differently, and trying to get them to a specific state where foreign investors are comfortable with putting their money in these markets, that challenges us at times.
And what are the opportunities that are out there for institutional investors in Africa?
I think with the upcoming middle class in Africa, you'll find a lot more development in these markets. Very capital hungry continent currently. So with that, I think that will facilitate a lot of capital flow into the markets. Currently there's, I would say, a lack of capital assets in these markets, but as Africa develops, there's a lot more demand for assets. I think also the growth opportunities in these markets on these assets makes it quite attractive for foreign investors.
And how are the regulations affecting the investor services business?
Yeah, regulations is challenging. It's a growing continent. Regulators are growing with us in the continent. It's our responsibility in the continent to connect the client and the regulator, and we're in the middle facilitating that development. And as I've said, we've got 14, 16 markets where regulations are different, products are developing, and it's how we work with the regulators and getting the right outcome for the clients.
So what new technology is impacting your business?
Most notably, I would say, is blockchain, and getting to grips with what that means. How do we respond to that? How does regulations play a role in blockchain? What does that mean for the CSD of the future? And how do we operate as banks around this technology?
Do you think in the African markets that the regulators are, really active in looking at blockchain at the moment?
I would say it's in pockets, most notably in South Africa. Recently we've set up our first blockchain, a group of banks with a CSD. The regulators are facilitating some conversations in blockchain, so really getting involved and saying, well, how do we think about risk, and how do we think about regulating this risk and protecting this risk, but rather partnering with us as an industry on this technology than try and overpower it, if that's the right word.
So what do you think the hot topics were here in Geneva? And then also, do you think those will continue to be the same hot topics in Toronto, or will there be different ones?
The hot topics for me, the previous 2 Sibos were for me very much regulatory driven. Regulations, compliance, regulations. I think this Sibos saw more technology coming up as a key talking point and how we respond to it. What I would like to see at the next Sibos is more, how do we converge the technology conversation with the fintechs and the disruptive technologies we are all touching on, and how does that converge with the significant regulatory change we're having also hit us, and where's that crossing point? It would be good to have both regulator and fintech talking about the technology, and we giving a client perspective.
Great, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good, thanks for having me.